Aloha and welcome to Island Connections. I'm Ibrahim Aoude. Education, engagement, and social justice is the topic for this session. And we have with us Ulla Hasager. She's Director of Access, and you will say what Access is. And we're dealing with civic engagement and service learning as well. And then we have Lobendahn. She is a graduate student in anthropology, applied archaeology, and she works also in civic engagement and service learning. And we also have Kajihiro. He's a Ph.D. candidate in geography, about to finish, hopefully. And he's a graduate assistant in ethnic studies, and he also works with civic engagement and service learning. So welcome all, and we just go about and say something about our relationship to civic engagement and so forth, and how that started, since you're the one really who dealt with it and developed civic engagement for the University of Hawaii. College of Social Sciences, at least, and you've been working with all kinds of groups and other universities as well, and community college. So would you please go ahead and tell us something about that?
Aloha. Yeah, I'm Director of Civic Engagement for the College of Social Sciences and leading the Access engagement part. Mm-hmm. So Access stands for advising civic and community engagement in the social sciences. It's a relatively new unit. It's very innovative and apparently of great interest to people nationally. I just came back from a conference where we were talking about student success and the beauty of combining engagement, academic work with advising at different levels. I have been doing civic engagement work since the mid-90s, so it is a long time. And I'm running a number of, I would say, poster programs that engage students from several disciplines and universities. Some of them have been running for 20 years. Focus of civic engagement has, over the years, changed. I see nationally and internationally also a greater interest in what we can do with it beyond all the well-known pluses that come from working in the community as part of your academic education for your graduation and for your future employment or grad schools if you're an undergrad student. Now there's a more of a focus on what can it do overall working with the community. Mm-hmm. So national organizations are talking about democracy, educating for democracy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We are talking about going beyond borders. Mm-hmm. This is a conference that just finished that in many ways opened new doors, mm-hmm. Talking about how students' strength, community's strength are playing into improving the academic education. Mm-hmm. So I find that very exciting.
Yeah. And just to inject something, like you mentioned that you went to, just came back from a conference, but right. You were, you attended 2 other conferences within like several weeks. Right?
Yeah, it's a busy time.
Yeah. So it's all about those kinds of civic engagement and service learning, right?
Yeah. The social justice has become a buzzword. Mm-hmm. Looking into microaggressions around racism and ethnic discrimination, mm-hmm. Up front. Mm-hmm. It's really an exciting time, and Kyle is going to share a project that we are doing with Ethnic Studies Department in that direction.
Yeah, right. So maybe like then you done, or you want to say something?
I just wanted to kind of back up and give you a classic definition of civic engagement.
Oh, hey, be my guest.
So Thomas Ehrlich is one of the leading scholars in this field. And he he says about civic engagement that it implies working to make a difference in the civic life of our communities, and developing the combination of knowledge, skills, values, and motivation to make that difference. It means promoting the quality of life in a community through both political and non-political processes. So AACNU, the Association for American Colleges and Universities, probably the leading educational organization, has been behind a lot of focus on liberal education and pushed very hard for democracy support. But as I said, now it's kind of going beyond that, which is really exciting.
Yeah, so before we go to Kyle, maybe we watch this 1 minute video clip. It's about models of civic engagement, and then Kyle, after this, will do that. So I'm gonna go to that one.
My name is Jessica Cardenas, and I'm here for service learning through Chaminade University with UH Mānoa. With Malama ina ahupua, it's a way to learn in depth more about the land. Although I'm born and raised here in Hawaii and Oahu, being connected to the land it feels good. It feels good giving back to the land and to learn about different places.
What I learned in this class is how to take initiative and take the small steps and tasks that you may think is minute, but it may not make a difference, but it really does make a difference. And if you do take care of the land, it does take care of you. And so that's what I learned.
This whole experience actually impacted all of us. To learn about something in the lab or in the classroom is totally different from actually going out and experiencing it. Because, I mean, you can write papers 1,000 times about something, but until you actually go out and do what you're writing about, it doesn't have as much of an impact on you. So, yeah, definitely learning about the invasive species and how they're impacting the environment and what we can do to kind of prevent it or maybe help was good to learn in class, but going out in the field and actually doing the physical work was, I think, a lot more meaningful for everybody.
Aloha, my name is Kavehi, and I'm a senior in the Ethnic Studies department. How can I relate the Malama ina ahupua to my class? Let's just say that it's really hands-on and I really enjoyed it. What we learned in class, we learned about the native struggles that the islanders and the indigenous people have been going through for many years, and actually being in the community, it really shows me it's still happening right now and the people are still fighting, and it kind of inspires me to be that leader for the next generation, to kako'o and just Malama, Malama our people, Malama our aina. And I'm really glad I was a part of it this semester, and I hope to be a part of it next semester as well.
Kyle, could you say something about your particular engagement in civic engagement?
Okay, sure. Well, thanks for having me on. I'm a returning student after having been working in the community sector for a long time. So I've seen it from the other side, where we're working on these sort of problems and trying to address these environmental and social justice issues. And a lot of times we're looking to the university and saying, how can all the smart people over there help us, right? And I think that bridge is really important. And one thing these service learning programs tries to do that. Civic engagement, service learning, as Ulla mentioned, is about making a difference. And then when you take service learning, it's more than just volunteerism, right? It's about applying academic rigor to your volunteer activities, and then also using those activities as data, if you will, to bring back into the classroom and analyze, how the things that you're learning is relevant to these problems in the community. So there's that kind of two-way process that goes on. So coming back to school, being able to get involved in service learning through ethnic studies, it's been a great experience for me because I get to sit from the other side and I see how, it's challenging, I think, for the universities these days are so competitive. So everything's pushing towards careers and getting the best grades and looking for majors that people think will be the most beneficial for that kind of trajectory. But what we offer here is something where you are getting the kind of depth of experience that will be applicable in multiple pathways that you choose in the future, right? Because it's actually connecting it to real world conditions, and that's super valuable. I think the other thing, being connected to ethnic studies is the history of the department is basically, it was born out of civic engagement, if you will, right? The department was about community and students and faculty sort of taking action to demand that certain histories and stories are told, the stories of our communities, and then making that reality happen in the university setting, but then not just being satisfied with studying it, but then having students go out into the communities and become a resource for organizing, for outreach and education of community members. So that partnership goes both ways. The students learn something invaluable. I think it changes their lives when they engage in that way. And the community gets the benefit of students who are applying their intelligence and their access to resources to solving these problems. And we see Waiahole Waikane is one great example of that kind of really synergistic partnership between the university, especially ethnic studies, and a community that's trying to achieve something. And they won. Right?
Yeah, yeah. Exactly. So in fact, just to inject something here, like, as you mentioned in terms of ethnic studies, we've been doing service learning and civic engagement way before this became like something that taken up by big universities and all of that.
Right.
So that's no wonder that the college asked ethnic studies to start that one for the college.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So so that's good. You want to say something else on that?
No.
Okay.
That's my involvement.
Yeah.
And I just help out coordinating some of the service learning activities for certain classes. At different times, I've helped to coordinate how students get connected with their sites. So there's a lot to it, and the program is growing. So we need more. Actually, the capacity is one of the factors that sort of limits. There's a demand for it, and so I think there needs to be more resources so that we can actually serve all those students that want to do service learning, and we can also support the partners in the community so that partnership is robust.
And we will be talking about partners because it's very important. Without them, there would be no service learning, service engagement. So, Kat, I want to ask you, in terms of your engagement, and then perhaps we can watch the video as you are talking, perhaps, or you want to do it after? Yeah. Okay, we will do the video and you talk that one, and you say something about the video too, if you like.
Okay. So my engagement, I started working with Ulla since the spring of 2012. So I think I'm the longest staffer that she has, and it's been rewarding, actually, work to marry, if you will, the university and the resource that it has with the communities, especially with disadvantaged communities that we work with, particularly in Palolo. Of course, we work island-wide, but the difficult thing is that our communities are so large these days, and they're so diverse. Ethnic studies is great, especially with the undergrads. as they come in the 100 level classes, they get an opportunity, or the department gets an opportunity to provide the students with some information, some skills in how to engage meaningfully, with the communities. Because everything we learned in civic engagement or even ethnic studies and the social sciences at large is basically teaching us how to engage, things that we should have learned from childhood in our communities, and there are ways of being that we can take and apply in our own personal life, right? Like the concept of Malama Aina and Aloha Aina, from the Hawaiian perspective. I'm not going to speak too much about that because that's, I believe, is something reserved for Native Hawaiians, but that belief of their connection to the land. And so you cannot give something you don't have, and you begin by taking care of yourself. Like self-care, it's not a selfish thing, as I've been learning. But you put yourself in a position like when you're on an airplane, right? If there's an emergency, you put on your mask first before you put the mask on of somebody that needs help. And so the work we try to do in the community is to not enable them to just be part of the continuing problem of people being seen, especially minorities being seen as wards of the state, but to help them step up and empower them, to see a better future for themselves. The program that I lead, Kaholova'a, it was born out of Willie Kauai's idea of helping to work well with the Micronesian community. We work with Kanehunamoku Voyaging Academy, and it was giving back to Papa Mau for the contribution he's given in voyaging. But how Kaholova'a uses voyaging is that the canoe or the va'a is used to bridge the different cultures, especially other indigenous cultures here in Hawaii, Pacific Island cultures, including Native Hawaiians, and that we get to learn and know that we have more in common than we have differences. And so it's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work to do, and although we do a lot of great work in the communities, and because it's the university, right, students are always evolving. There's always a difference and a shift. The students come, students go. And I've had this conversation with Ulla, like, how do we just develop something that's solid, that it doesn't matter, the changes and the shifts in people, that, you just stay on your basic foundation, which is doing meaningful work with the communities. And just consultation, it's huge. It's one of the things that I've learned in my studies as in applied archaeology and focusing on historic preservation as well as culture preservation, is that there's not enough consultation being done.
And you're talking about Kaholova'a. There's another fact sheet for that.
Yep. So this is our fact sheet for this semester, spring 29, and it's the general overarching theme is the work we do in the community, and that's helping to bridge racial tensions amongst the community using the va'a as a metaphor. We get to educate students that come from all over the world, and to understand island life from the philosophies of the va'a, which is tight-knit, and as you take crew training, you learn how to be selfless, and that everyone on your canoe is depending on you. So to be your best person. We also emphasize the contribution of Papa Mau. We've also built a canoe, 2 canoes. Our own canoe is still in the works. And we've worked closely with Papa Mau's son. And, it's a great program, and it's rather specialized, but at the same time, it's open to many people. And I think the broader we go, that's just the more people that can learn about what we do and the importance of what we do, why we do what we do. And that's engaging the community. Again, we can all go out there and volunteer and stuff, but unless you really come from a place that your motive, your priority of your motive is to really help this community. You know, otherwise you're just checking off a box.
Yeah. I want to talk more later on about the Kaholova fact sheet, come back to you.
Okay.
And also in terms of your relationship to the Va'a, you know, so you can tell us something about you from Oceania, etc. Because I think that's very important. Right. It's not like someone coming from the moon and talking about the Earth, you know. So I think that's very important. Also activities, etc. But Ulla, like Kat was mentioning, Papa Mao and his son, etc. So who are these guys, and you know, and their relationship to the Va'a, and then we can, Kat can also talk about this later on. Yeah.
So, we are in the middle of the Pacific, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oceania, and our work is in many ways linked to that. One of the leading scholars in Pacific research was Ipele Haofa, and what he helped us understand was that the Pacific is the water, the ocean is actually connecting people and not separating people. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that idea combined with a realization that the relationship between ethnic groups here in Hawaii is not as nice as we would want it to be. It's clearly, although we are one of the most ethnic diverse places in the country, and apparently UH is the most ethnic diverse institution of higher education. We don't have easy relationships between the different groups. Different than continental US, but there's still things to work on. And one of the groups, our most recent immigrant group, comes from what is called Micronesia, a very diverse area with different cultures and languages and ways of doing things. And that is what we in ethnic studies teach is the most recent different group, immigrant group. They often become scapegoats for a lot of things going on here. And if you look at the media, you would think that half the population is Micronesian, but it's not much more than 2% that comes from that area, if indeed that much. But the strong relationships between the Pacific Island cultures is kind of supporting this idea, to go back to Willie Kauai's focus, that we all have something to learn from each other. And resailing the open ocean, Kat can correct me on this, but I believe that the Maupi Ailok from Yap State was instrumental in making that possible for the Native Hawaiians in the mid-70s when they started sailing again, and very closely linked to the whole social and political and economic movement that started for supporting indigenous rights at that time. So Mao is an important Yapese man for our Native Hawaiians and for all of us.
Yeah, in fact, without him teaching navigation to Native Hawaiians, because you know, all this travels and all of that wouldn't have come up, you know, wouldn't have happened. Yeah. So on that, I want to go back to you, Kat, before we go to Kyle, and tell us something about your relationship to that, Oceania. And then I want to talk, you know, about the activities of the Kaholo Va'a, and then how to get started as well. And then we go to Kyle, and he'll talk more about things that he's been dealing with.
As for myself, I'm originally from Fiji, Samoan and Tongan ancestry. And you know, I've always been an ocean person, and when the opportunity for when Hokulea and Hikenalia did the Malama Hono worldwide voyage, I was fortunate to be on one of their legs. And for me, it was just reconnecting to that part of my heritage, And it was one way I wanted to honor my ancestors, my immediate ancestors, particularly my mother and my grandmother. And so when that came up, it was huge. I just did what I had to do to get through the training and, you know, fulfill all the requirements for that. But, you know, it's important to me to connect Pacific Islanders because it helps eliminate a lot of wrong information that's out there, right? And so Kaho'olawa'a was just one way in working with Bonnie Kahapea. She was in fact, she was the one that introduced me to the Malama Honua. She just said, hey, I heard they might be going to Tonga, you know, and so, but it was through Kaho'olawa'a that I had that opportunity, and took me a whole semester to go, which was nice. But you know, Kaho'olawa'a's work, how we get started is it's not like Mina, where Mina can have hundreds of students, right, from across disciplines. We'd like to go 15 is pushing it. I like to try to keep it to the amount of people that's required for a crew, right? So 12, 14 at the most, 15 at the very most. And so at the beginning of the semester, we go to different classrooms and we, you know, present we're giving students options on different programs that they can involve themselves with. And Kaho'olawa'a, sometimes I wish I could cherry pick, but you know, we can't do that. And but quite honestly, on a personal level, I wish more Pacific Islanders would get involved. You know, there's students like in the Samoan and the Tongan and other Pacific and other Micronesians. I wish they would come because a lot of them don't have this knowledge. They don't have a lot of this. It's just kind of like a broad understanding for them. But to get to learn the culture of it, how, you know, the Wa'a does connect us. And also, they get to learn seamanship and survival and that kind of thing. And so, so far we've been having Europeans, Singaporeans, and other students, which is great.
Japanese?
You know, Japanese, definitely Japanese. And every year, the Ohana Wa'a have a crew training called Iminawawau. And in fact, myself and some of the students just came back from Kauai 2 weeks ago. We went, it was 4 days training. It's usually pretty rigorous. Your day starts at 5 a.m. till about 10, 11 o'clock at night. And so it's nice that we get to go and do that. And as far as Oceania, yeah, it's important to me to make those connections.
And you have all those activities like, you know, it's not like sailing on a dry dock and all of that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, sails are usually earned, you know. You usually earn your sail.
It's like wings.
That's right, right? You show up, you do the work that, you know, wax on, wax off, right? Like in Karate Kid. And you do the mundane, and then you get rewarded with a sail. And then it's just so much values. There's so many values that you can glean from participating in that.
Yeah, wonderful. So Kyle, there's like the Malama in Pua'a, and you've been involved with that as well, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So could you tell us more about this, and in terms, like you know, more specifically as well as the ethnic studies courses and how
it relates to these. Okay. So Malama ina Ahupua'a, right, to take care of the Ahupua'a, the traditional Hawaiian land division, is it's a place-based program. It's Hawaiian culturally grounded, and it takes place in multiple sites around the islands. So this program actually grew out of long-standing relationships that ethnic studies professor Marion Kelly and KCC professor Nilda Quincell had established. They had been working with these communities, and they realized that there was this kind of beneficial partnership between the students coming out and helping, you know, with their labor, these folks that are doing this work to take care of sites, and also those sites had a lot of knowledge that they could impart on the students. And so as it's grown now, I don't know how many sites we have. It's dozens and dozens of sites. Almost every weekend, there's a number of different activities going on. Some of them we try to organize the program so that the student will have access to the Mauka to Makai concept of the Ahupua'a, right? So there's some sites that are geared to upland areas where it'd be more forested, more related to streams and watersheds. The lowland areas where often it's lo'ikalo, taro fields, flooded taro fields, and then various kinds of cultural sites. And then the sites towards the ocean might be doing work on removing invasive limu on the reef, or helping restore one of the Hawaiian fish ponds that are under stewardship of these community groups. So there's some exciting work going on that gives the student this kind of opportunity to start making those connections. So for someone who's new to Hawaii or who's not familiar with those kinds of concepts and those practices, it's a full immersion and something really, I think it just connects those issues for them in a bodily way. For those who are like Hawaiian studies majors and so forth, they can advance their studies. And so sometimes we will have students who would focus on a particular site. Like let's say they have an interest in fish ponds and the kind of the biological, ecological dynamics of a fish pond. They might dive in and just spend their whole service learning experience gathering field data from that particular site. So it can work in numerous levels. And let's see. The other question was about ethnic studies. So we're trying to actually, that's one thing that Ulla and I have been trying to assess from, at least among the service learning program, faculty who in ethnic studies who offer service learning as an option, what are some of the best practices? How do they assign service learning and integrate it with their course content so that it really is rigorous academically, but also is grounded in a way that will make it meaningful for the student, right? So it's and also at whatever level the student may be at. So if we have a 100 level, a freshman coming in, and it's totally new to them, we want that experience to not be so overwhelming, but something that will excite them and hopefully spur them on to do more. But then if we have upper level students who have more serious academic, intellectual endeavors that they're taking on, we want the project to be as rigorous to meet their needs and their goals, right? So we're trying to figure that out. We call it scaffolding, like a way for the service learning to be geared to the level of interest and experience of the student, and that it's also tailored to whatever major or career interest they might have.
On that, let's watch this 3-minute video, and it features you talking about this kind of stuff like ES 399, water and justice, right? So, yeah, you want to frame it first? Yeah. Okay.
We have for some years been running some very unique faculty and community partner development programs. We call them grand challenges, and we focus on different challenges. So in 2017, we had kind of a pilot that we called the grand challenges of water. Last year, we were looking at Alohaina, Malama. This year, again in mid-May, and that's open for anybody that's interested, we will have a focus on water. It is a key issue here. Yeah. And during those institutes that are supported by a private grant and the Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs, the Social Sciences, and Access, we faculty have an opportunity to come together and work together, create networks around engagement, around addressing important issues of our time, and actually try to develop courses or programs. The community partners are also teaching, and they're also developing curricula. And what Kyle is talking about here is the result of a very interdisciplinary group working together, trying to create a new course. Okay. So one of the results of the pilot workshop in 2017.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So we'll watch this, and then there's something else on water that we're gonna talk about too, right? Kat, you're gonna talk about that probably, yeah? So we'll see, all of us will talk about it. But anyway, so let's watch this.
Our hui name is Nahihivai, which is the freshwater, the native freshwater limpet. And our motto is hold fast to the past, flow into the future. And so the course we designed is Ethnic Studies 399. It's a fictitious course, possible course. It's water and justice. And it's looking at a political economy of water, including issues such as access to clean water, the delivery of water, and stream restoration issues. Clean water, water pollution, what are the sources of pollution, what are its effects, who and what are affected by pollution. A kind of a theme or value that we want to incorporate is Malama ikawai, to protect the water. A course outcome would be to create an artifact that effectively intervenes in a contemporary contested water issue. The assignments, the initial assignment would be based on the chant that we saw in the first day, Aya ihea kawaya kane, where is the water of Kane? So it would be for the students to read the chant, to listen or view the video, and then to write a short essay or create a slideshow about their own observations of why in their life, water in their lives, how they interact with water, what it means to them. The service learning component would incorporate some of the things that we do already with Malama ina ahupua'a or possibly Kaholava'a, both programs that deal with water in different ways. It would have some hours requirements. They would keep a journal, write a short reflection paper, and include independent research on the topics and issues related to those sites. These are ideally, it would relate to the summative project, which would be, again, to create an artifact that effectively intervenes in a contemporary contested water issue. So we would ask them to work in pairs or in small groups to do various kinds of research, archival, scholarly journals, and ethnographic field notes, which their journals from the fields service learning could feed into. And also we want them to interview kupuna elders or have kupuna come and visit the class so that they are getting kind of a first-hand informant to tell them about some of the issues related to these sites. And also because we have a ethics designation for this class, we wanted them to incorporate a section that discusses the ethics of this issue, end space, rules space, but especially we're going to incorporate aloha aina as an ethical principle that they could also use to discuss the ethics of these decisions.
A number of things regarding this one, Kyle, which is like earlier you mentioned, like, how this kind of service learning or civic engagement is rigorous, and courses relationship to civic engagement. So this one we just seen tells me how rigorous, the course would be through civic engagement and service learning. So could you say something more about that?
Well, I mean, I think the point is to try to find a place where, there's a real-world application or intervention around the issue, so that we're not just talking in abstractions, but that these things really matter in people's lives, in the communities that they live in. And so if we can find those problems and then take the resources of the university and the classroom and try to figure out how do we assist and how do we solve these issues. And when we talk about like an artifact, it's about actually, it could be testimony, it could be a report of some kind, a video, something that could be useful for the community. So it's like thinking through, it's not just a paper that meets the kind of minimum requirements, but you're also thinking about the impact you're making on the world. And I think that's a really valuable piece to add to anything we study in the university.
So, in fact, someone who assigns service learning to students on a voluntary basis, I can attest to the significance and importance of this service learning in terms of the students who are taking it or who take it, they tell me that they like it and they want to. In fact, a couple of students, they done service learning before, and they in my class they want to do some more. So that is interesting. And these were top students, in my class. But regarding the Grand Water Challenge now, I see May 13th to 15th. This is like a flyer that we will show. May 13th to 15th, 2019, West Oahu. So who wants to tell me about that? Are you involved in this? Or
Involved, I think.
yeah.
Ulla.
Ulla, yeah. And then maybe you folks, if you have ideas, especially when you talk, Kyle, about creating a curriculum about water, just as we saw a few minutes ago. Yeah, Ulla.
Okay. So this is a collaboration between many different partners, but led by Sensor Hawaii. And Sensor Hawaii is a group of faculty and community leaders that are really interested in teaching to current, capacious, meaning difficult, important, contested issues. That was exactly what Kyle was talking about in a much more understandable way. But the idea is that we take up issues and we teach to those issues. And we know that that kind of teaching is motivating students much more. Sensor stands for Science Education for New Civic Engagements and Responsibilities, and is a national ideology, identity, initiative that Hawaii has become a very strong force in, just because I think of the very strong Native Hawaiian community and its involvement in education.
Let me inject. Let's show the flyer, to make sure, like May 13th to 15th, 2019. So it's coming up, right?
Right.
Okay, so you want to say more about that?
Yeah, a
Sorry.
little bit more, because we received an award in 2015 for exemplary collaboration, and that was particularly, again, the indigenous perspective, that we say that we are doing our best to use all the knowledge from all the sources we can, but with a strong emphasis on place-based, aina-based learning. And it's natural sciences, it's social sciences, it's indigenous sciences, what we will call these things. Knowledge, in my mind, that we are bringing together. And teaching to these kinds of issues, it's very well known that the best way to do that is through engaging students with the communities. Mostly service learning, internships, we are doing a lot in that field. Community-based research for students at all levels, all those kinds of things. Bringing together. So what we do at these 3-day institutes is that we immerse ourselves in different pedagogies and in knowledge about different areas, and then we establish room for people to talk and to work together. And that has been wonderful, very productive. It's supported by the Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs, sustainability focus in the first round of, I hope it's more rounds are coming, called Strategic Investment Initiatives. So it was part of one of 8 projects only that were supported through that. Another part of this working with us was, interestingly, faculty development on the island of Kaho'olawe. And I know that the last group that just came back also had the Vice Chancellor himself participating.
Yeah,
so it is really a transcending way of developing faculty skills and interest. And there are, of course, for faculty, amazing opportunities for research projects as well.
In fact, I want to talk about not only the rigor of service learning and so forth, but also, in terms of teaching people or students the science of things. You know, I think that's very important. For instance, but before that, I want to say something like Kyle mentioned, like for that course that, you know, ES 399, you said that there was an E focus, which is an ethics focus. Yeah. And so could you say something more about the different foci or focuses that we have at the University of Hawaii?
Oh gosh, I don't know if I can remember all. But I think some of the general education requirements includes, you know, the global focus. There's the Hawaiian and Pacific Island focus, and I think a number of ethnic studies courses meet that requirement. There's the writing intensive, where you have to write at least, I forget how many pages it is.
16 or 16 pages.
And with a lot of feedback and a lot of development. There's an oral focus, which some of our courses do, and so that it's primarily about your oral presentation skills, you know, how to organize your content into something that will be compelling and interesting. And then the ethics focus, which, you know, has students think carefully about what are the ethical dimensions of these, you know, academic topics that we study, right? So it's not enough to just be smart and know a lot of things, but it's also like, what do you do with those things in the world? Yeah. So I think those ethics discussions are really key.
Yeah. In fact, you taught E-focus ethics. So we both taught ethics focus and writing intensive and oral intensive, and I taught in the past like Hawaii Asia Pacific stuff, but you have that designation. But now there's also something, you know, sustainability.
Oh, right,
you know?
right.
So that's another thing. You want to say something about that before we go into the science of things? I want to engage also Kat with the science of things.
So the 4 focus areas, writing intensive, or HAP, as we call it, and ethics are required. You need 5 writing intensive courses and 1 of each of the others, if I remember right. We also now have a sustainability designation, a SUST designation. That's not required, but recommended. And it allows students to put together an academic journey with a focus on sustainability. Right now, I hope we're very close to finishing up a certificate, undergraduate certificate in sustainability. This is such an opportune time for us that are thinking in this way, for the university to really develop and sustain a meaningful relationship with the environment and the communities around us. Civic engagement and sustainability are pushed from many, many directions. If we look at accreditation, it's in there. If we look at our institutional learning objectives, we have a focus on something we call value, in addition to knowledge and to do things. And that value is very tied into these ways of thinking. We have just developed an Institute for Sustainability and Resilience, led by McKenna Kaufman here at the university. We had last fall PCO, another of the SII, or the Vice Chancellor's strategic initiatives, showing how education here is land-based, INA-based. And I could go on and on. There's so much going on in this field and so much support for it, whether people want it or not. We have very strong faculty all over the university, from math to political science, of course, with the political indigenous politics program is really, really strong in this, and ethnic studies is leading in it.
And I wanted to say something before we go to Kat, you know, about the science of like the VA'a, for instance, and so forth. And that is that you can learn a lot of things through, as we said, through service learning, civic engagement, so that for a Research One university, Carnegie Research One University, as this Mānoa campus is, this kind of civic engagement and service learning really enriches the research aspect of it, and begins to engage students, undergrads even, in doing research, etc., and shows them the rigor of the research and so forth. So the student can get out of a Research One university a lot of learning and studying that really is imparted to, to him or her, so that would help them in whatever field they might go into after they graduate and so forth. So I just wanted to say that. But, Kat, in terms of the va'a, for instance, the people say, oh, why are you building a va'a? And, why are you having like students go and have fun in the water? And things like that. But Ulla just mentioned like math. Some math students or professors like engaged in this kind of stuff. So can you learn oceanography? Can you learn about the stars? And can you learn about math doing the va'a, for instance?
Right, absolutely. I think there's a misconception about the va'a and just likening it to sailing boats and just sailing in the leisure context, right? And it's wonderful to be out there, but there's actually a lot of sciences involved in the va'a. You can learn math, you learn astronomy, you learn sustainability, right? And so it's a gamut of things. It's not just the physical or the natural sciences part of it, but there's also the social science aspect of it, right? The humanities of it. But if we, one of our biggest water challenges, and I'm probably just preaching to the choir here, is that water is commodified, right? It shifted from the plantation, and now these people are bottling it and selling it to us. That's why I won't buy any Hawaii-made water. And we're buying water, right? Where before the only time we paid for water was that it came through our pay the water board, right? And so, if we treat our life here on the island as you're on the va'a, right? You're out in the open ocean, and you only have a ration of water, right? And how you treat that, water is our most valuable natural resource that is in so much trouble, so much trouble. Not just it's the political or the economical part of it, but the contamination of it, right? A lot of the water that comes through our pipes are so unhealthy. So, but with the va'a, yes, I mean, you have a ration, and it's precious. We bathe from the ocean water, the salt water, and water is only used for drinking and brushing our teeth, but we never use it, and for cooking. But other than that, it's something that's precious, and we have to malama it. And so, and we don't have that here. I go down to the beach and I see people just running the water like we have water to run for days,
There's a lot of water in the ocean, that's why.
Well, see, that's the thing, right? That's where education is important, and people are not making the connection. You can't drink the ocean water, and we don't have facilities to change our ocean water into drinking water. Maybe that's something we should look at. Exactly. But, Hawaii has, at one time, had some of the most beautiful water, and it's just so much has been done to it. And the Hawaiians have a word, vaivai, and it's water is wealth, and it is. Like I said earlier, it's our most precious natural resource, and we have to put right people in government so they can make the right decisions concerning our water. It's
and the aquifers of in Hawaii have like excellent quality of water.
Right.
So why not clean up the water that comes through the pipes, etc.
Right.
Rather than have bottled water, etc. So that's an important thing. Besides, like water in plastic bottles, even if it's not in the sun, it's not good. Some research is showing. Be that as it may, the fact of the matter is that sustainability and all of that. And you can learn, about the stars,
Absolutely.
astronomy,
Astronomy.
and, oceanography and all of that. So these are like rigorous sciences, math, how to do the thing, yeah.
Like on our voyage, we had some scientists come on as
Yeah.
well, and whenever we had fish that they caught, they would open it up to see what that fish ate, and so they would track,
Right.
the biology, and they could even tell where certain fish came from, and like, why is this fish in our waters, and
Yeah.
But yes, definitely.
Yeah, so that's like, helps in terms of the research one university, the research at Mānoa, for instance, yeah.
It's critical.
Yeah,
It's critical.
The other thing is that you can teach, why are we cleaning up the pond, the fish pond, or doing taro? If, Kat was saying that, we import a lot of stuff, and then Kat referred, or alluded to something like that. So if we are importing a lot of food, yeah, so we have fish in the pond, so if we can do that, we have like taro in the field, if we can do that at, commercial kind of level, then we would be able to economically, be in a better position than we already are, than we are now, which is not that good, yeah? So could you speak something to that in terms of food and this, kind of thing, and in terms of civic engagement? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think just the food is so precarious for so many people now, right? And with climate change, it's making it even more so. So having the ability to produce food in culturally appropriate ways, in ways that are sustainable within the environment, and that actually might enhance ecosystems and their ecological services is a tremendous benefit that comes out of these programs that goes beyond just the learning, but it produces these effects.
Yeah, so it has importance to or significance to the political economy of Hawaii, and jobs and food and expenses and income and all of that. So we still have 1 minute. Any new things that you would like to say, in conclusion, Ulla?
I did want to add, if anybody are interested in the grand challenges, please join us. You can find more information on the website of one of our key partners, the University of Hawaii Systems Sustainability Office website.
Yeah, and I have it, the flyer again, if we can show it. Yeah.
And you're welcome to also just email me at Ulla, ULLA @hawaii.edu.
Okay.
And I'll send you the information.
Good. So we're flat out of time. Thank you all for coming and sharing with us your ideas about something that's important to Hawaii and to our students and education and learning and knowledge in general. So thank you again, and mahalo nui loa, and see you next month. Aloha. All right.